Wall, a Game of Thrones podcast, with hosts Christiana Ellis, Chooch Schubert, Vivid Muse, and Nuchtchas. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Season 5, Episode 2 of Beyond the Wall. Tonight we're discussing Episode 2 of Game of Thrones, titled The House of Black and White. As always, spoiler-free and up to the latest aired episode. Chooch, and we'll say hello to Christiana.
Hello.
Hi to Nuchtchas. Oh, she didn't hear me. Nuchtchas, hi.
Oh, sorry. No, I thought you just called Christiana gorgeous. So.
Oh,
wow.
Well,
Which
don't you
she
feel like
is.
an ass now, Chooch?
My bad. My bad.
Hello, everyone.
And good evening to Viv, who's joining us from her voyage afar.
Yeah, 10 feet away from Chooch.
Well, in the last episode, I said you went to Dorne for a scouting mission.
Can I just say how adorable it was that our non-reader is the one that posts the links, and he said that I was in Dorne, and he misspelled Dorne. He didn't put the E at the end, and I was like, oh, that's so cute, I don't even want him to fix it.
Yeah, I was going to give you a chance to talk about last episode.
Oh.
Maybe we'll skip. No, I'm just kidding.
No chance to talk about last episode. You missed your shot.
And before that, were there any news bits? Were there anything that anybody had seen or scoured?
Well, I wanted to talk for a second about Balticon, if that's okay.
That's news.
It is news. It's very selfish news. It's just about us and all of our Balticon friends. Balticon's coming up Memorial Day weekend, and we are hosting the new media party this year for the first time in a long time, and for the first time as a group with our fellow hosts here, Nutty and Christiana, and it's going to be Sunday night in the Garden Room, 10 p.m. Nutty? That's what time we're opening the doors?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, and we're going to start with a memorial for our dear friend and founder of SpecFicMedia.com, PG Holyfield. There'll be a costume contest after the memorial. We'll have dancing. We'll have food. We'll have just... The theme that we're going with is space, because we all know the love that PG had for space, as so do we all. And if anybody wants to volunteer for the loot, for the prizes, for the costume contest, or if you want to help on participating in any of the other elements, then just let us know. And that is really all I have as far as Balticon. We hope you can make it if you're going. We'll see you there. Hope you can swing by and celebrate with us.
Balticon is super fun. One of the highlights of my year every year.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Cool. No other Game of Thrones news. Why don't you go ahead and give us your...
I'll just give a hat tip to Nutty, Nuchtchas, and her meme roundup over at SpecFicMedia.com. Some nice finds there. I'm in particular a fan of the shot of Brienne and Podrick standing by their horses looking very serious, and the caption is, "Party on, Pain, party on, Karth." I did love that one.
Love it.
It was really good because I got a meme response in the comments this week, and so that'll be in next week's Game of Thrones meme roundup, and it's really great. It's about the leaked episode, so I'm kind of happy about that.
Well, Chooch, you were going to give me a quick minute to talk about episode 1.
Yes.
And I know that you said that I owe Nutty a rating, and I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. I don't know, golden masks of the harpies or whatever those things. Son of the harpy, what are those things called?
Sons of the Harpy, yeah.
Give me 7 out of 10 of those mask things.
Okay, that brings our cumulative score down to 74%.
Well, but I am adding a +2 adjustment because I was in a foul mood. So just you could add a point or two to that just because of my condition when it aired. I'm sure a lot of it is my fault.
That's not how this works. You give your number what you give it. That's it.
I give it a 7.
There you go.
Okay. I love you girls. You empower me.
No apologizing for our ratings here. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Besides, I gave it a 7 too, and I think we also all acknowledge that we are judging on a Game of Thrones scale here.
Yes.
We're not comparing it to all your other random TV shows that might be on CBS tonight or something. This is on Game of Thrones scale.
Yeah.
It's like 9.7.
Yeah, 10.7. And I wanted to add on a couple of scenes. I just had a couple of notes. The Cersei's childhood prophecy scene at the beginning of the episode, which I thought was really well done. I didn't realize what it was until it was halfway through. And it just really struck me as she's reflecting on that memory, what a weight that she had to carry for so long, and just, gee, I wonder if that's going to happen or not. And then to have seen it come true, it's just like, well, partially come true. 1 out of 3 of her kids has been shrouded, but and I thought that they also introduced the sparrows. I think that's what they're called here, right? The sparrows, the religious order, or not, I guess, fanatics. I don't know if we want to call them that, but they've
evangelicals.
Like
fundamentalists.
Lancel is someone that we have had a lot of sympathy for in the past, and seeing that his results, the different parts that he's played in the story, how that could turn him into someone that turns to religion so fiercely. It just totally rang true for me. Is that, now, my memory is shoddy on book 4. Is that how they did it in the book? As far as, was Lancel a part of the sparrows? Do you remember?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
That's a very big part of it. He just in the books he was very frail.
Yeah, right. He didn't look all buff and
He's still looking frail.
He looks weak and sickly in the book. But one of the things that I sort of stood out from what you were just saying, I thought was Lancel is someone we've had a lot of sympathy for, which I don't necessarily disagree, except just that we really only had sympathy for him in the very last time we saw him, which is when he was finally kind of standing up to Cersei a little bit at the Battle of the Blackwater. Everything he did before that was kind of sleazeball and slimy, and he was sleeping with her, and
it was disgusting.
Kind of a dweeb.
Yeah. So
how much of a choice did he have in his fate? Honestly.
Well, I'm saying that our last memory of him is positive because the last time we saw him is the one time he actually kind of stood up for himself and did something not shady.
Yeah. Well, then, excellent job on the part of the creators and the directors and all that, because I thought they nailed it the way they timed it. I liked in episode 1, just finishing up, the fact that, Daenerys, and again, I'm just hitting the visual points here. Daenerys is wearing a dress that had that white shimmery kind of dragon scale detail to it, and it was very light and ethereal, and I thought it was a really neat contrast to that black feathered dress that we saw Sansa wear at the end of last season, that mockingbird gown, and it was just I thought it really contrasted the ways that their characters were trying to go. Daenerys is trying to go this honorable way as a regal ruler, and Sansa's just kind of given up and trying to survive, it seems, at this point. And then I have a whole thing about Jon and Mance that's just too long to talk about. But that was most of my thoughts. I'll probably save that and talk about it later because I think it's going to come back into play later. So
cool.
That's pretty much the majority of what my thoughts were about the show, and what you can see why I didn't make it to log in.
Sheriff Bullock chimes in. I still refer to Lancel as the Millhouse Van Houten of Westeros. The short hair works for him.
Oh my God, I need to make that into a meme now, and it's going to be, nobody likes Lancel.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think another way to take that meme is to show him looking all buff and chiseled now with his short hair and saying everything's coming up Millhouse, all right.
Oh, there you go. That's a whole other one.
Yeah.
He's got to be happier with his fate now. I think we can all agree on that.
Well, he's certainly looking good. But at the same time, he's also kind of a creepy weirdo now. That also Cersei has got to be really uncomfortable because he knows all kinds of bad stuff that she did.
Yeah.
And he's a super religious, very confessy sort of guy now.
Yeah.
That could be bad.
Yeah, I think that's coming back around.
Yeah, I imagine so.
So we jump into this episode, title sequence, we get no Dorne.
Disappointing, especially because we actually went there.
I'm hoping now that it's established, I'm thinking they'll get a Tinker.
Well, that was what my overall thought was for this. I mean, because when you watch the opening sequence, you can't see a single thing beyond Castle Black at the wall, like nothing. It's just like white land, and there's nothing. You know, there's been no scenes yet with Bran. There's been no scenes yet with Winterfell, and that's like, I just am like aching, you know, as to what kind of an update we're going to get on that when we're seeing things like Theon and what's his name, Roose in
Ramsay
coming, Ramsay Snow, sorry, coming up attractions. So it's just like they really delivered on the theme of the title of the episode, though, because there were a lot of like, I thought in many ways this episode there were like really important decisions of choosing one path or another for nearly every character.
Yeah.
That I thought was really, really an interesting kind of interpretation of things that were happening at this point.
Well, and also almost all of these characters are being faced with decisions that are kind of not even the decision they thought they were going to have to make.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
you know, we started right off with Arya, who finally arrives at the House of Black and White, and they're like, you know, we don't want any slam.
Yeah. Yeah.
I actually really did like the line, though. It's like, I have nowhere else to go, and he's like, you have everywhere else to go.
That was the best. I think I needed like that on me when, you know, it's like the best reaction ever. Love it.
Like,
that was a...
I feel like so much of Arya's story, though, is condensed. Like, there's a couple of chapters that are just shrunken into this one episode.
Yeah.
I think, but I don't know. Maybe
well,
that's
just it felt that way to me, too.
Yeah, I was trying to remember exactly how it went down at this point in the book, but like, there's definitely some differences that they're making, and you know.
Doesn't she have like this whole thing where she's living on the streets before she ever gets to the House of Black and White?
Well, so I think that we can't really that I think is coming up.
Yeah.
I feel like there was more stuff, and that's where we'll leave it at.
Yeah, exactly. I had the same feeling.
Forward to a scully face with lots of worms crawling out of it. But that didn't happen. But that's okay because they made him shaken, so that's good.
Yeah, that was a really moment, I thought.
Which
do we want to talk all about all of Arya's stuff now, or do we want to kind of
go a little more linearly? Because there were some things that interwove a lot this episode.
Okay. Well, move us on, Mr. Moderator.
So we jump to the Eerie Lands, and holy shit, number one, they're in the same place.
I know, especially after that tease last week of the carriage going by. I am so excited by some of this because, again, it's like, not that I didn't enjoy seeing things I knew from the books play out in the show, but when they're doing stuff that is just completely off book, because it's past where the book has been, and also just you have some characters like Brienne who are kind of on almost a completely different trajectory than they were in the book. And so having all of this stuff play out where it's like, I have no idea what's going to happen.
Oh, that makes me feel so much better. Because I remember so little that I have that sense a lot of the time. I'm just like, what could possibly happen, you know? And it's like, it's good to know that as much as you guys retain of it, that it's like that for you as well.
I feel like also that Brienne and Pod and Sansa and Littlefinger being in the same restaurant and having this meeting is kind of like the writers going, reacting to everyone saying, having them so close was just stupid, because everybody was saying that last week. They're like, that was just stupid. And I feel like they put that in last week so that they could say, nuh-uh, it's not stupid. Look,
we just teased you and made it.
We've done so many things like that before, where characters are so close to each other and then they don't see each other.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, John and Bran sob from last season.
But that happened in the books too. So.
Yeah, I know.
It happened twice in the show, though.
Yeah.
Not only crossing the wall, but then again at Craster's Keep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Crazy. So, Brienne gets some more heartbreak, gets turned down again.
Yeah. What I love, though, not that I'm happy that it happens, but I love that it's just so built in. Like, they don't have to come up with some elaborate reason why they would turn her down. It's Littlefinger is able to just say, Renly said your loyalty came without a price, but someone has clearly paid a lot of money for it since then. Because the thing is, as much as we know that she's really on this noble quest and she's actually really all about doing the right thing, she is walking around with a Valyrian steel sword with Lannister gold on it.
And
that's going to say something to people.
And she's walking around with Tyrion's old squire.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well,
still wearing Lannister armor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Lannister armor, exactly.
I think her whole demeanor in this exchange was it just really flipped, because she's in that really dark armor and her mood is very dark and very brooding, and Podrick's just like chasing the honeys with his eyes when he spots Sansa and Peter, and it's almost like the first time you see hope in her eyes in a while. It's like she goes down there and she's like, I can't believe it. And then as soon as she realizes it's really Sansa, she hits her knee and her eyes light up like you haven't seen in an age. Like the last time we saw it was when she put her eyes on Sansa, and before she was disappointed. But it was like this really beautiful thing, like you said, that we got to see, but Sansa doesn't know shit, and she is finally now free of the Lannisters. She's with Peter, who she knows has a creepy obsession with her, who has money and power and will protect her, because all he wants to do is control her like he couldn't do Cat. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think Sansa has seen any of the supernatural stuff. She's literally been closeted in and the keep and unable to see anything other than leaving the boat and then being at the Eyrie. She hasn't seen walkers. She hasn't seen dragons. She hasn't seen any of the
red priests or anything like that. Yeah.
Right. She's like really insulated.
Even more than that, she's being pulled out of her daydreams and her stories. So to tell her that there's magic, she's gonna be like, really?
Yeah.
I just dyed my hair and put on Maleficent's dress.
Really? I know.
That stuff.
You know what, though? I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say it's the tragic heartbreak of Brienne being as awesome as she is, unfortunately actively undercutting her success. Yeah. Because the thing is, if she stopped going around telling people it was a shadow with a face that killed Renly, and she said, some dude slipped into the tent and stabbed him when we weren't looking, and then he got away. Yeah. People would believe that more quickly than they believe the shadow with a face thing. And now, as we saw this time, Littlefinger makes her look stupid. Yeah. If she says it. It makes her look crazy.
And the thing is, Brienne believes all those stories that Sansa believed. A knight is good and true. A knight is only as good as their honor, and the knight follows their honor. And she is everything that Sansa ever believed a knight was. But Sansa doesn't believe that she's a knight because she's seen A, that knights suck, and
she's just
B,
too late.
Yeah, and B, Brienne's a woman, and then Brienne is still holding to this ideal. Like Ned Stark would have loved her.
Oh my God. Oh my God, he would have adopted her. Are you kidding me? But you know what I thought was really cute is that you pretty much knew, again going visual, what Sansa's response might be, because she had, in addition to the black hair and the black gown, she had on, like, I think of it as kind of like, the trend of the statement necklaces right now where people are wearing these really huge things. Hers was like that circle with a bar through it, but in black, like, nope. And so, like, it was like as soon as Brienne tried, it looked like Sansa considered it, but we had that subliminal, big black nope going on her chest, and it was just like, Brienne didn't stand a chance. Mm-hmm. But I want that necklace.
Yeah, it's just, it's so great just because, very similar to the whole fight with the Hound last season with Arya. It's just one of those things that at the same time that it's the exact opposite of what we want to happen, it's so obvious from everything that came before that this is the only way it could have ever happened.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it wouldn't have made any sense for there to be any other outcome than what happened this time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You can't fault Sansa for not going with Brienne.
You just I start thinking a little bit like what's going to happen if Brienne actually gets her hands on one of the Stark girls. She's going to go to Winterfell?
Yeah, it's not clear.
Bruce Bolton will marry her?
Well, sorry, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to also add that I do give Brienne some credit because she tells Pod to get all the horses ready. She's planning for failure. So I give her credit there.
I think she's also potentially planning for, I might have to grab Sansa and then run out with her.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, okay, ladies. Chooch, unless you have a question as our resident unspoiled noob, I have a question for them.
Hit it.
So, since you guys remember so much more from the book, up to this point in the story that they've shown on the books, because we don't want to go advance and spoil anybody, do we have any idea at this point what is going on with Brienne? Are Pod and Brienne still together? Did that just happen, and do we hear about it in whose point of view?
It's hard to tell because it's so different. They're really just kind of
so jumbled.
Other than almost everything that Brienne has done in the show since leaving King's Landing on Jaime's, assignment, almost everything that's happened since then has been completely different from the book.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sandor got into the fight with Rorgan Biter.
Yeah.
Instead of her.
Right.
She never meets Arya. She never meets Sansa, so far as we know.
Yeah.
So it's all new stuff, basically.
Okay. Well, that's really cool. Then I don't feel as bad for not remembering it.
There is that sense of camaraderie between her and Pod, the growing relationship, but I feel it even more in the show. And as I've said in previous episodes, to me, Brienne and Pod are Duncan Egg reborn. And I think that I see that even more in the show than I've ever seen it in the books.
Aww.
So it does not go well, and she does have to make a hasty escape, retreat. And it was funny when they have the fork in the road, and Pod goes one way, and all I could hear was like Indiana Jones or something, like, short round, stop messing around.
Right.
But I think Pod did that on purpose.
Oh.
I think he was trying to split them up.
Like lead them away from her?
I do think that he's a bad horse rider, but I think split them up. One, thinking they're not going to really hurt me because I don't have armor. And two, less people, the better.
Mm-hmm. One of the things I really liked about this bit, though, is that I think it was the first, or at least the biggest so far, moment of genuine concern for Pod from Brienne. Like she has tolerated him even though he's annoying, and she has appreciated his assistance. But this, I think, the first time when she sort of just realizes, oh, where's Pod? Is he okay?
Right.
And there's this moment where you sense that she really wants him to be okay. And
she gives up the chase of Sansa.
Yeah.
Right.
Make sure he's okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. She saw where they were going. So, and I guess I was kind of expecting like a breakdown because she lost both of them and both the girls. But no, she's just whole hog. Nope, made a promise to her mother. She gonna be safe with them.
Yeah.
Although, one of the things that occurred to me that I thought was really interesting, and I'm not really questioning how I feel about it in the show because I'm totally on Brienne's side, obviously, because she's awesome. But it did occur to me that her decision to say, I'm not going to respect what Sansa says her wishes are, I'm going to go after her and rescue her against her will if need be. How would that play if Brienne was actually a male character?
Not well at all.
Right.
Agreed.
Now, but that said, I think that's actually part of what makes it interesting is that we have that behavior that would come across that way from a male character. So does it come across that way with Brienne? Because we know what she's really all about, and we also sort of instinctively feel that Littlefinger's probably not good for Sansa in the long run. Because as much as she's been, she took a level in badass, to use the TV trope term. I like her, but I don't. She's not Littlefinger level. You know what I mean? Like, he has still got her outclassed by a pretty wide margin, and so if it comes down to it, he wins, I think. Yeah. And so we can also share Brienne's concern, but it's also true that it's like, at a point, it's like if she has explicitly refused your help, but I suppose there's also merit to be said in, it's like, hypothetically, if you suspected someone was in an abusive relationship, you might not necessarily trust the answer that they give when the guy's standing right there.
Yeah.
I feel like her decisions about Sansa are her making up for her lack of planning and some of her decisions in finding Arya. Arya didn't want to be rescued, and she failed at trying to get Arya away from Sandor.
Right.
Again, knowing that's a bad guy.
Yeah.
I really don't want to be with him. And then she meets Sansa with Littlefinger, and is, okay, no, that's really a bad guy.
Yeah, that's a bad and powerful guy.
Yeah, that's even worse.
It occurred to me, though, that other than him having a general reputation, she doesn't, and him being mean to her there in the inn, she doesn't really have any specific reason to distrust him, does she?
Doesn't she know about him giving that he said that the dagger was Tyrion's, and then after talking to Jaime, knowing that it's not, or was that never specifically stated?
Oh, no, I think you might be right, because Catelyn may have told her that after Renly died.
Because it's not so much on the screen, but they definitely were really tight. So even if you didn't see it on the screen, I'm pretty sure that Brienne had a good idea what Catelyn was thinking about Littlefinger and what Catelyn was thinking about everyone.
That, you might be right. I had forgotten about that element of it. So certainly Littlefinger was not in Catelyn's good graces at the time that Brienne was serving her.
It may just be that's what she needs to go on. She can't not have a quest or. So.
Well, I think there is that element too, of if she doesn't do this, then what does she do?
Yeah.
So let's jump over to King's Landing. Some Cersei and Jaime talk and
snake in a box.
Strange on a table.
That was cool.
Somebody presumably had to go set up again so that Jaime could experience it.
I was just going to say, did Cersei put it back together so Jaime could be just
I wondered the same thing.
So, what was very interesting to me here is this is another scene where we've got Jaime and Cersei's opinions being flipped from the books. Because in the books, he's like, let everyone know that there are kids, and she's my daughter. Let them know I don't care, and let them come. Everybody knows anyway, and we're still standing. And Cersei's like, no, we can't do this, we can't do this. Whereas in the show, Jaime's like, if we do that, we're all going to die.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting. I'm not saying it's bad.
He said it for a minute, though. He begged her. I think it was when he first came back. I don't care. Let's tell everybody, screw it. The Targaryens did it. What are they going to do? Stop us?
Well, yeah, they're
at once. Yeah.
they definitely have kind of a whole different dynamic going on with it, because certainly at this equivalent spot in the books, neither of them was very fond of the other at this point. But then also, just with this whole Jamie's new mission here, that's completely new.
Yep.
And how great is that, right?
I know. I
have to wonder if it was a manipulation on her part, bringing up, you've never been a father, what have you done for her? And he's like, his gears turn, well, I could go get her.
Well, it puts him on a
Will
quest.
you fuck me then?
I feel like Cersei's very first cry upon being born was a manipulation.
Oh my God! Right?
She has never done anything in her life that was not a manipulation of something.
I agree wholeheartedly. That should be a T-shirt or a bumper sticker.
Yeah.
His first cry was a manipulation.
So yeah, and so Jamie, I never said I was going alone, and immediately my heart skipped a beat. Wait, could it be?
It's got to be. Well,
cutscene. Ta-da!
I guessed that it was going to be him. Yeah. I hoped anyway, but I guessed partly just because I saw Jerome Flynn's name in the credits, and I said, they're going to give us something with Bronn. They're going to have to give him something to do, because I don't think him just going off and getting married to Lala Stokeworth is necessarily super entertaining. Although I have to say, the one scene with her so far that they showed was actually pretty good. So.
Yeah.
I love that scene. I mean, they skipped the part about her being pregnant. They skipped the all these other things. He's not the in charge of the City Watch like he was in the books, but the talking about the sister and him basically saying karma will happen. You know that the gears are going on in his head.
Yeah.
Oh no, we'll get this castle. He's quite ambitious. And the actress playing Lawless is perfect because you feel for her. You really feel for her.
She's like a little Sansa.
And he makes her feel good. Which
but we also get why Tyrion's response would have been, but she's dim-witted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder, because of the deal that Jamie makes, if we're ever going to see Lawless again. And if maybe this was just a bone to the book readers.
Yeah.
That's my suspicion. As Tim Dodge actually says in the Q&A, Jamie saved Bronn from the altar. See, I am not sure I completely agree with that characterization, because I think even though Bronn was not necessarily super into Lawless as a person, he was definitely into the idea of being a lord who might get a castle if he plays his cards right. And so, I mean, because that's essentially what he said to Tyrion last time when Tyrion wanted him to be his champion, is it's like, look, you told me if anyone ever tried to pay me to sell you out, that I should give you a chance to double the price, but they've offered me a wife and a castle.
Yeah.
Do you have a twice as good wife and castle?
Yep.
And so I think he was into it, if not necessarily, pumped about Lawless specifically.
Yeah.
But I think, even when he first saw the deal that Jamie, the scroll, I think his first reaction was like, dude, what the fuck? Like, what are you doing? You're messing with my thing here.
Yeah.
But, Jamie promises him a better one.
Yes. And
what was
can
that?
I also mention Jamie's leather vest jacket thing is just awesome.
So sexy. Oh my God. He looks so sexy in that.
And he's getting the Reed Richards gray going on.
Looking
Love it.
good.
I'm such a fan of the graying temples.
Oh God, wait till you see Chooch. Oh my God. All that gold hair, silver. Oh my God, girl.
Yes, Tim Dodge, yes.
To quote Monty Python, she has great big tracts of land.
There's some other movie that has a quote that wears like a better one, and I can't think of what it is now. Well, never mind.
I'm looking
I say
forward
we
to the
wait.
Jamie Braun buddy cop show.
This is, I think, going to be really enjoyable. I think it's
I'm
going to be a
wondering-
fun ride.
Which boat they'll be on, if they'll be on the Fed Express or if they'll be on the slow boat. 'Cause
Well,
you never know when this land.
Yeah, because I think...
It's Braun. It's going to be a party boat.
Well, I'm trying to remember in the books, just in terms of the geography, whether it's more typical to go by sea or by land from King's Landing to Dorne, because it's south of there and it's a ways, but by ship you have to kind of go all the way around some other land masses.
I think it was by land, yeah. But
I'm going to put
geography doesn't always seem to matter. It's just
it was cool though. We got to
to
see Prince Doran and
Oh my
mention of the sand snakes.
Prince Doran being played by Alexander Siddig makes me so happy.
So what else has he been in?
That's Dr. Bashir from Deep Space Nine.
I never watched it, so that's why I asked.
You hurt me so hard.
Oh, baby, it's just to tantalize you. You gotta keep coming around and teach me these things.
I liked him as Doran, although, I've talked in the past about how typically I don't really form a strong mental picture of characters, and so I'm not thrown off when an actor looks different or anything.
Yeah.
Doran was one of the only exceptions, just in particular because I think in the book he's described as, looking and feeling a lot more old and sickly, whereas here he's clearly not healthy, but otherwise he's looking pretty tough despite being in the chair and not moving around a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which was also the reason why he went and why Oberyn went instead of him, was because he was so sick and unable to travel. And I agree, he looked healthy, Christiana.
Yeah, he's got gout. By the way, looking at the map, and it does appear that you could go by boat or by land, and I'm now reminded that the reason why land is also very, very slow is there's a lot of mountains between Dorne and the rest of the place. Westeros. There we go.
Well, and because the trick, I think, now that we say that, the trick is that by sea is faster, but riskier because you're in the water and who knows what might happen. Whereas the by land is the long, slow road where it's really only mostly bandits and boredom that you'd be worried about.
Yeah, and well, you're going with through the narrow sea, so there's pirates and all sorts of things there.
Right. So yeah, she mentioned the sand snakes are behind me, and a few times in the past you guys have said, "Oh, sand snakes are coming, sand snakes," and not having a clue, of course.
Yeah.
In my picture, I'm seeing Beetlejuice style, literal sand snakes.
That's funny.
Sarlacc.
Oh, I love it.
This is the first one that I'm like, the sand snakes are behind me. I'm like, oh, so it's probably not going to be that.
That is actually really...
Never know. I mean, this is a magical realm, and have we heard of a magical creature from Dorne yet? I don't think so.
I actually didn't recognize Ilaria right away with her shorter hair.
Yeah.
It took me a minute to realize that's who it was.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder, did she cut her hair as a sign of mourning?
Yeah.
I suspect so.
I
But
think
it
so,
also...
Benjamin.
See, this is another example, though, of sometimes how the show kind of fudges time a little bit, because it doesn't seem like it's really been weeks since Oberyn, and yet she's all the way back down in Dorne, and not only back in Dorne, but appears to have been there for a little while.
Right.
Yeah, in the books, she's still traveling back with his remains.
Mm-hmm.
And we first meet Prince Doran in the Water Gardens, and there's kids everywhere.
Yeah, I missed that.
There's kids everywhere laughing and playing, and the reason why he sits there is, even though he's in terrible pain because of his gout, it brings him happiness to watch the children play.
Yeah.
Which maybe they took out because it might have seemed a little pedophilic or creepy on screen. I don't know, but I liked the idea of it. And I feel like some of these conversations, definitely what goes on here doesn't happen in one conversation, but some of these conversations happen with some other people.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I think they definitely...
I like his bodyguard dude. He looks cool.
Oh, yeah. But I think I hope that they fill that in a little bit, Nutty, because I agree. The Water Gardens, that can't be where they were, because that's not how I pictured it at all with the children playing and all that kind of stuff. So I was also disappointed, and I hope we get to see that, because that was one of the things that really charmed me about him. And it wasn't, and there was nothing pedophilia. I mean, school me if I'm wrong, because I'm the fool that missed out on Loris and Renly. Remember that?
No, I mean, I think you're right. It seemed perfectly innocent in the book, as far as I could tell.
Oh yeah. And we also find that yes, they did age up Marcella.
Thank God. Right? I mean.
Well, I mean, again, it seems like they kind of have to if they're doing it common. It like doesn't make any sense for her
They're
to
not going to change the order.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then also just again, without getting into it, just some of the, if she's going to play more of a role on this show, things happen. I don't know. I don't want to spoil anything, but I just mean I think it just again, like with every single kid on the show, I feel like it makes more sense for them to be a little older than the number that's given in the book.
Yeah. For American audiences, for sure. Chooch, what did you think of that little brief shot of Marcella in Dorne? Did you have any other than, hey, that's Cersei's brat? I can't hardly hear you, honey.
So I knew that was my assumption. I just flowed with it.
Yeah.
Kids playing, and well, they weren't just playing. They were making eyes.
Didn't it remind you, babe, of like Sansa when she first got to what you call it?
King's Landing.
To the King's Landing, when she was like in love with Joffrey before she realized she was all kind of smitten, and then she was smitten with Loras, and it was. I was honestly kind of happy to see Marcella in that kind of little playful thing like you were talking about.
That just, when you mentioned Sansa when she was still in love with Joffrey, just reminds me, I found the greatest photo that I used as a photo comment on Facebook when people were talking about spoilers just in general, like not Game of Thrones specifically, but I had this vague hint of an idea, and then I did a Google search, and then it came up. It's basically a shot of Sansa from, I think, episode 2 when she's mad at Arya, and it's her just with this pursed up expression going, "You're spoiling it! You're spoiling everything!" And so it's just a picture of her, that face and that caption, and I just thought, oh, that's great.
That's perfect. You have to send me that. I love it.
Love it. So let's jump over to Marine. And we find that the second sons, I wanted to say seventh sons.
Shout out to J.C. Hutchins.
They're a little more effective detectives than the Unsullied.
Right.
I really loved the line, as he says, without fear, you forget how to hide.
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty brilliant.
Yeah.
I also just like this this rivalry they've got going between Dario and Grey Worm. I mean, that's that's new, but that's just another thing that I like.
Yeah.
I feel like it's because Ser Jorah is gone that he needs somebody to rival against. Like Dario has to be top guy.
Yeah.
And
so where's Jorah again? I forget. Is he back at?
We haven't seen him since Dany banished him.
Yeah.
Okay.
My prediction is that he's raised an army in Dany's name.
I think he's sneaking along behind her like Smeagol. He's just stalking her.
My
Posing.
Khaleesi.
Exactly. Okay, now we were talking about Orphan Black before we started recording. It has to be mentioned that we have the same actor, who I'm not even going to try and pronounce his name.
Yeah, it's Cal. We've mentioned that.
Yeah. So it's Cal from Orphan Black, but now Orphan Black has started up again. So it's literally back-to-back Dario and Cal, and it's like, at least have a matching accent so I can stop being so confused.
Nope.
God, he's hot though. I mean,
I was gonna say you're just gonna have to suffer through it, baby.
And he's so much hotter than the other Daria. I'm over it now. I'm okay with it, but yeah, I've adjusted to
Yeah, I'm coming around to not okay. Regular listeners of this show, and certainly you guys know that I have a complicated relationship with Dario as a character. He's the guy I
that needs to be on a shirt.
I think he is interesting storytelling because he is like a booby trap for Danny.
Yep.
And so but I'm kind of coming around. Just the actor is so damn charming. So it's just like it's hard to hate Dario in the show quite the same way that I did in the books.
Right. It's a different kind of.
Yeah.
So, speaking of Grey Worm, by the way, my mom was up visiting, and we got into this discussion about the most attractive U.S. presidents.
Okay.
The end result was not important to this, but when I mentioned Obama, she says, he's attractive, but I can't stand his voice. So I said, oh, you should be watching Game of Thrones. Then you would think that Grey Worm has everything.
Grey Worm is pretty hot, I gotta say.
But he looks like Obama.
Yeah.
He does, I guess. I hadn't thought of him.
Oh, there were
that way.
I think of him being Obama.
Oh, okay. See, I missed a lot of that stuff. That's what we count on you for in your meme roundup.
and completely off topic, the end result is my mom is wrong and I am right. Teddy Roosevelt is the most attractive, and she's wrong. JFK is not.
I'm not going to argue with you because anytime someone wins over their mom, I got to give them props, but we'll have a conversation separately about that.
See, I feel like I've been inclined to disagree, but I don't know off the top of my head who I'd pick instead.
It's like, where do you
JFK
go?
was pretty good looking.
Oh, yeah. Well, we had a whole discussion, and we gave points, and then we found a list online, and it agreed with me.
There you go.
There's a list online, and clearly it's beyond dispute.
It's on the internet.
Yeah, it must be
so
true.
We have Danny's small council.
Oh, thank you.
With all the different classes represented.
Yeah. So I think I read somewhere that the slave, former slave, I should say, who is now on her council is Mosador.
Okay.
And then, of course, we also have Hidzar Wolorak. I think I'm saying that right.
Yeah.
Who we met last season as the guy who persuaded her to finally let the crucified masters be cut down. So having him, contributing now too. But so them and then Barristan still there. They're talking about what's the right idea for justice here.
Right.
And although I liked the conversation from Barristan about the Mad King father, at the same time that I kind of like it, I just sort of feel like I can't imagine that they wouldn't have had this conversation already about him having to tell her, oh no, it was not lies. He was really like that. Well, I can't imagine that wouldn't have come up before now.
That's another stumbling block for Barristan not hiding his identity. As he did in the books. As we've discussed, in the books, he had his identity hidden. He was an old squire for this guy, Strong Belwas. And it wasn't until Danny finds out who he is, because other people she meets up with at Marine make it known. And once she finds out who he is, that's when he tells her about Ser Jorah's betrayal. That's when that comes out. That's why he waits so long to have this discussion about the Mad King. Whereas in the show, I mean, this just shows, okay, it makes things a little weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just feels like that's one of the first quiet moment. I feel like she's like, so tell me about my dad as the king. I feel like that would come up.
I think it was really effective, though. I mean, at least, he
I like the conversation.
Mad. He didn't just go mad. It was step by step. Everything was logical as he, slippery slopes and all that. The one thing that bugged me is Danny being Danny. It's like the last conversation is her opinion.
Whoever talks to her last, yeah.
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. No, I'm agreeing. There's also the shave bait that I feel like we're missing
The
because
what?
in the books there's the shave pate. I forget his name, but it's one of the masters who shaved himself and basically said we were wrong all along.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's this whole cast of people that came from the privilege class who said Danny is right, we are wrong, and vowed their service to her. And they're the ones that I think the Sons of the Harpy first come to, or something else. I don't remember. There's something about that. And there's this whole thing going on there, and we're just completely missing that. So what we see in the small council is she's got one of the guys from the Second Sons who's an outsider, a slave, a master, and the old white dude from Westeros. So you're missing the fact that there are some of the master's class who don't agree with the Sons of the Harpy and don't agree with all the other masters.
Well, I don't think Hidzar in this context. He doesn't seem to agree with the Sons of the Harpy.
That's true. He seems a bit more moderate.
Yeah, he's the one basically saying, like, because Mosador, the former slave, is the one of saying, oh, you just know that all the old families know what's really going on, and he's like, I'm from an old family and I don't know.
Exactly.
He could be lying too, though.
Well, that's true. But yeah, it is interesting just having that whole little small council set up now.
Yeah.
We've got a couple of comments in our Q&A. We have John Donahue, strong Belwas piss on their city, and the Brixton beasts. Strong Belwas is missed. He's a fun character from the books that they've just omitted for time, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, they do a lot of condensing of characters and stories.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Right, and the thing is, it's like we don't need him for plot really, but he was fun.
He doesn't do anything. He's comic relief.
Yeah,
he's Cordelia.
And then, of course, Sheriff Bullock also says, where is Sir Jorah? I think he's posing for romance novel covers like Viv observed. Danny needs to hire a public relations staff and do some damage control. May I suggest she start a 24-hour propaganda network?
Nice.
Oh, Sheriff Bullock, you're awesome.
But yeah, so like I have more to say about that whole storyline, but it's the later scenes from it.
Okay. Let's head over to the road to Volantis, which goes to the road to Murray.
Varys and Tyrion on the road to Volantis just feels like it should be one of those old movies with Bob Hope and
Bob Hope, right?
Yeah.
Or with Brian and Stewie from Family Guy.
Yeah.
That may be more.
It turned into Box Talk with Varys and Tyrion.
Right. Box Talk.
I love, especially given that Varys has got this whole like the two of them bounce off of each other so well because Varys is like uber practical, uber cynical, but with this super romanticized, idealistic goal.
Yes.
At the heart of it.
Yeah.
Whereas Tyrion is much more inclined to think, well, like the way you do things all along matters. And the goal, is like, oh, ruler? We've got a ruler. There's lots of rulers. Every pile of shit on the side of the road has somebody's banner over it. And so he's kind of the one to just question is like, is this even something worth doing anything about?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why is this girl going to be any better than anybody else?
He cared, and they burned it out of him.
Yep.
But I mean, the line, did I misrepresent my intentions when Barry was criticizing him? It was like, that's all I have to do is tell people that I plan on getting wasted. Awesome.
Well, he
did say, did I misrepresent?
The whole time.
Right?
You get mad at him.
Mm-hmm.
I should note that in the books, he's traveling with Master Illyrio, I don't think it matters. I kind of like that it's Varys.
Yeah.
I think we have more of a connection to him, and I really enjoy this actor. So
yeah.
Well,
especially in the book, Varys just sorry.
I think he just is really good at keeping the thoughts of Westeros and the realm and all of that kind of in focus, even though Tyrion is going into this like drunken, awesome, fun-looking slide where he doesn't care about anything about more wine.
Mm-hmm. I was just going to say it's also a benefit just because in the books, Varys is really just completely off screen for quite a while, and so to not have to lose that actor is nice.
Yeah.
I also liked just the visual motif and the layered metaphor of in the box, outside the box, and what that means, and just in the practicality of he's spent the voyage in a crate, and now he's just it's a nicer box, but it's still a box. He can't go anywhere. But then just that whole idea of you build this box to separate you from the people who disgust you, but at the same time you'll never be satisfied as long as you stay in there.
Right.
And that sort of thing. I liked all that stuff.
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah.
And another
pretty box.
Excellent transition straight into let's go for a walk. What, are they going to kill every dwarf?
Oh,
Back to King's Landing. Yeah, they are.
That's the
And Cersei's just fine with it.
It was a.
And Qyburn's excited about it.
Yeah, he's all like, "You gonna eat that?"
You're not gonna finish that, are you?
Yeah.
Gross.
Yeah, he's not that gross in the book.
Oh God. But it explains a lot. It explains why he was able to keep Jaime alive, because he does these creepy, macabre experiments and.
Yeah.
And in the books, the dwarf is somebody that you meet that Brienne has met. So like in the books, every time certain things like this happen, it's you know who they are.
Well, there's kind of there's a whole other subplot there too. I think that they're probably just not going to do.
Well, that's not this scene.
That's I know.
Anyway, it was just gross. Yeah. It was just.
It is gross, and I think that dwarf had a pretty good likeness.
Well, it's clear she doesn't even care. It could have been a dwarf with black hair, and I think she would have just looked at it anyways and been like, "Oh, well, no, that's not him." But keep trying. Yeah. You know what I mean? Her hate is so
the loss of life. She has.
Yes, she
that's
anyone.
Yeah. Clearly, no penalty. Just we don't want to dissuade anybody.
Yeah, I mean, in her mind, what value do they have? They probably killed their mother coming out too. Well, she's just totally.
And I think that Cersei just paints all dwarves with the same brushstroke. Yeah. I think that she's holding them all accountable, and it wouldn't bother her one bit. And we've seen people, and in her mind it makes sense, but we've seen people who get very emotional, and they have that kind of mentality. Yeah. Well, one person from a specific group hurt me once, so I hate all people from that specific group.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's not good, but it's believable.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think also in this particular case, it's not even like hatred of dwarves so much as she just really does not care.
Yeah.
I agree.
It's she is angry and upset because it's not Tyrion. Otherwise, she couldn't give a damn.
Yeah.
But we've got a slightly spoilery question in the Q&A, just because it's something they may or may not do. I suspect that they will, for those of you who can see the question, but I think maybe we leave it there because otherwise it's potentially spoilery.
Okay, yeah, let's leave it there because I don't even know how to see it. So maybe it'll be something that we'll see in the next episode or in another upcoming episode. Is that what you were thinking?
Yeah, I suspect that they're going to get there with Tyrion's storyline.
Cool. All right. Well, then please send us that question again.
It's not super spoilery. It's just a general direction of the plot.
Yeah.
So we get creepy Qyburn. Can I keep it? And then we jump to Cersei's, It's not Cersei's small council, is it?
Well, she wants it to be.
Small council.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of awkward, but
an interesting.
She comes in swinging her dick around.
Yeah. Sits right there in the hand's seat and just says, "Well, of course I'm not the hand because it would be completely inappropriate for a woman to be the hand. I'll just advise the king until he comes of age."
Right. Just that one creepy little part.
Question from Lauren: is there any chance Cersei and Tommen actually talked about the council? And I doubt it. She probably
I know
has
Lauren.
him,
Yeah. Oops. Sorry. Go ahead. Didn't mean to cut you
yeah,
off.
she probably has him locked away and distracted with other things, and he doesn't need to worry about any of this right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I bet if they talked at all, it was just only in the context of, don't you worry about it. There's plenty of time for you to start learning about that sort of thing, but I'll just take care of it. I'll make sure that things go the right way. I think that's probably all they would have said. I know Lauren from my improv classes, by the way. So
Hi, Lauren.
Hi.
Cool.
I think, or she would tell him, oh, well, of course you're going to want to do this, and of course so like if she does talk to him at all, it's more along the lines of, yes, this makes perfect sense. Everyone would decide this, and he's such a sweet boy that, oh yeah, Mom, that's a good idea.
Right. Well, and Marjorie's looking pretty hot.
This is true. So,
on the subject of the small council. So, sorry, did you have a?
Oh yeah. Just that. Yeah, she comes in, all guns blazing, and you got I would be happy to be the hand and all that, and she knows how to shut Pycelle up. By the way, this is our new Master Whisperers.
Yeah. Did you remember who Kevin was, Chooch?
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
Okay. Good.
There's a character later on in the episode that I don't remember, but I did remember Kevin. Yes.
Because we hadn't seen him for a while, and like in the books, he plays a significant role in Tyrion's trial. So I had been a little surprised that he hadn't shown up last season. But it was nice to have him be here, and awesome, especially kind of calling her out on the obvious BS she's spinning. One additional change that I'm sure Nutty was maybe going to bring up too, just a change from the book, is that in the book, Cersei specifically did not want Mace Tyrell on the small council.
Yeah.
Because she's a Tyrell and she doesn't trust the Tyrells, right? I think in the show they just instead of introducing some new brand new character that we don't care about, they've kind of established him as he'll do anything she says, and so. And
he's loaded. They're loaded. They've already established that the Lannisters went broke funding the realm, and hey, the Tyrells still have money.
And I feel like in the show, it's obvious that Cersei understands Mace is kind of a fool, whereas in the books, she thinks he is everything people say about him, that he is the great lord and all this other stuff. Not, because in the books, yes, Lady Olenna has a lot to do with how the house is run, but to the public, it's Mace. Mace does everything. So in the books, she doesn't realize that he's a fool. Whereas you're watching this scene with the council, and, oh yes, that would be very nice. Oh yeah, and you can see he's like, I wonder what I would do, because he's kind of dumb, and that's fine. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff like with Sir Kevin that happened that they didn't really include, but I think they just kind of skimmed it up and did it all in that one scene, which is fine. But he basically comes out to Cersei and says, yeah, you've been doing a shit job, and you should go to Casterly Rock, and I'll be hand, but you go away, and things will be good. And he was much more in line with Tywin, whereas in the show, it seems like she thinks, okay, I can kind of control Uncle Kevin, and I can get him on my side, and that she's a little bit surprised by this reaction. At least that was my take on it.
And then he just, all right, Uncle Kev out. And fuck the realm. Like, if
Mic drop.
you're doing a horrible job and you're taking over, but I'm not going to do anything about it.
And his brother was just killed by one of his damn kids. So, I mean...
Yeah.
That was his brother that was on that toilet.
My favorite detail, I think, about this scene was not something that was really called attention to in any way, but I just loved Qyburn's whole demeanor in that, of just like, I know this is a big deal that I'm here, and I'm just going to go ahead and not say anything right now and just hang out. I'm a little uncomfortable, but I'll just let you guys do your thing, and...
It's kind of creepy in the shadows.
Yeah.
Well, and the small council is also smaller in the shows than in the books.
Yeah.
Like many things, which is fine.
Yeah.
Let's jump to a bigger space, Castle Black.
Yay.
In the north, where we have Shireen giving more reading lessons, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Gilly's learning to read. I love it. And
that was so precious.
Annoyed with Sam being a know-it-all too.
Yeah.
And we get the long time payoff for her affliction. Of what it actually is.
So, Chooch, tell us your thoughts about this.
It was pretty wild. Part of it was finally we know exactly what it was, or assume what it was, and that it's not ongoing. It's something that was cast away. But I don't know what to think about it. There's a lot of crazy shit in the north.
Yeah.
I feel like we got more information here than we did in the books.
Okay.
I'm not sure we
at least up to this point
that the Maesters, like how hard Maesters worked to stop it for Shireen.
Yeah, I don't know. It was nice to have Maester Crescent get name checked, just because people who don't remember, Maester Crescent was the guy who tried to poison Melisandre way back in season 2, only to have her say, "Poison, eh? Oh, now your turn."
And he knew he was going to die, remember? Because he poisoned both of the drinks knowing that they just had to drink it. If he could just get her to drink it. So he knew it was a suicide mission. And she just, her little throat jewel lit up and she burned out the poison and laughed or something.
So, but that was Maester Crescent that did that.
You're right. That was a good callback.
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like at this point in the books, we knew what grayscale was, at least in the broad strokes of it, but it had always seemed a bit more like just sort of its Westeros equivalent of leprosy. And it was left pretty vague in a lot of ways.
Well, and because Shireen has it, and does Patchface have it also, I thought?
I don't remember.
So Patchface is, for some reason, they don't include most of the fools. In King's Landing, they have Moon Boy, and there's all sorts of comments about Moon Boy, which I love. And at Dragonstone, they have Patchface, who basically Shireen was drowning after an accident, and he basically surfaced with her. And I thought he had it. I don't know, but they always called him Patchface, and ever since then he was a bit of a fool. But many people say that the things that he says are more prophetic than just gibberish. But he would sing these songs and then at the end go, "Oh ho, I know. Oh ho, I know." And I'm sure it would be very silly on screen, but it's just this little added piece. So we knew two characters with it already.
Yeah, the nod to his creepy weird songs. When we first met Shireen, actually, she was singing a version of that, one of his songs.
Yes, which was neat. And then the story that Gilly tells is just creepy. That wasn't in the books, right? I don't remember.
I don't think so. Yeah. And I love Gilly's character. She's just so pragmatic about everything. I really like how they've developed her as a character in the show. There's not really a lot to her in the books. But in the show, she's just got this, she's you know, she's got the things that really mean the most to her, which is primarily her kid. She likes Sam an awful lot too, but she's certainly willing to call him out on his bullshit when it comes up. And yeah, I like her.
And we get her perspective, which is not the same as a regular wildling, because she's a Craster's daughter.
Right.
All the other wildlings have more of a culture, and then the Crasters are like the Golers. They're inbred, you know, mountain folk.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting.
Plus, we get a little bit of a clue of what Sam has planning, just in one of his throwaway lines of he's researching the rules and history of who gets to be Lord Commander and how that all works.
Yeah. So then we jump into Stannis and Jon talking about Davos, of course, and we get our holy shit moment number 2. You could be Jon Stark, which somebody had mentioned in the preview or the reaction or something. I don't remember.
Yeah.
We talked that out.
Yeah, we talked last week just a little bit about how, you know, we had that initial scene where he kind of didn't quite actually say that, but, you know. Although one thing that occurred to me here, too, is that right now Stannis promising Winterfell to Jon is a little bit like how they promised Harrenhal to everybody back in King's Landing for a while, because it's like, we don't actually have Harrenhal occupied right now.
No.
But in theory, if we ever win the war and chase the enemies out of it, then you can have it.
At least Winterfell is nearby, you know, at least it's kind of stone's throw from
Well, it seemed implied of help me take it back and it's yours.
Right.
I also think that it's important to note that Stannis is the only one that the Watch has heard from. They've sent people down to King's Landing. They've sent letters to all of the supposed kings, and the only one to even send a reply. Not just a no, like nobody even said no. They didn't even reply. So the only person to do anything was Stannis. So far as they know, this is the most legitimate king.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he's still not king. So there's
Yeah, I mean, I think they have news, though. Like, they know that Tommen's on the Iron Throne and all that stuff.
Yeah, they've got news because they're still plugged into the Maester News Network.
Well, and they still their Maester is a Targaryen, so I mean they know what's going on and they know to stay out of it. And so the fact that their rescue comes with like this kind of hook stuck in the middle of it is just really intriguing, I think.
So there's a couple of things to note that's different. First off, like the way that a lot of these scenes are happening are all jumbled up in the timeline, like because I don't know. Anyway, it feels more jumbled. But
first, can I ask Chooch anything before we talk about the timeline from the book? I just want to get like where does Chooch? Where are you at with Castle Black and all this stuff that's going on as a non-reader?
What do you mean?
Like, does it make sense to you as like what Stannis is doing there? Did the leap there make sense? Is his like his kind of, I guess, ultimatum to Mance? Does all of that make sense to you?
Oh yeah,
non-reader.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, when he first rode in to save them, I thought it was going to be the Brothers Without Banners, but they're still wandering around somewhere. But,
with Thoros, yeah.
But yeah, I totally get what he's doing and how it's going.
So one of the things is Stannis insists that if Jon takes this, he needs to pledge to R'hllor and take R'hllor as his god, and he needs to burn the weirwood trees.
Oh.
Which is huge. And they have not included it in the show, and I think it works a bit better for the show, because I think in the show, especially after we just had that funeral for
Grit.
Thank you.
and all this stuff with Bran.
And all this stuff with Bran, it would be really hard to believe that Jon would be willing to burn the weirwoods. And it's not until because in the books at this point, Ghost has not returned. We got Ghost back last season, but in the books, Ghost hasn't returned. And it's not until he sees Ghost's face, he's ready to take it. And then he sees Ghost's face, and it reminds him of the werewood tree. It reminds him of what it is to be a Stark.
Right.
And how could he take the name and turn his back on the old gods? And so he's decided that he's going to turn it down before the election ever happens.
Well, he tells Tim he's decided to turn it down, but you're right that some of the other stuff. I think that you're right that they simplified that partly for time, but also partly just because I think they wanted it to feel a lot more like a much more tempting choice, whereas our instincts with the other bits, if you need to convert, you need to burn the werewood trees. I think that would get everybody's red flag alert going right away, like, no, don't do that. Whereas this way, it's almost a little bit more like we do kind of half want him to do it. Right?
Yeah,
I absolutely wanted him to do it.
I mean, it's Winterfell. It's the Stark name. It's a wife. It's children. It's like a life that he never dreamed of for himself. What do you think, Chooch? What were you saying?
When he talks to Sam and says it's the first thing I ever remember wanting, and I'm going to refuse him. I'm just like,
yeah.
Fucking Stark. Even if he doesn't have the name, he's fucking Starks.
Well, but you know what? One of the things that I think is so interesting about like John between Ned and Mance as being like father figures. I've got a whole like thing about it, but I think it's unfortunate that the honor and stuff that Ned like beat into those kids, which they've all been paying for, regardless of whether you think it's, chaotic good or neutral good or whatever, is that, honor before anything else. So it's, if I remember correctly, and tell me if I'm wrong, please, but John even found it a little distasteful for there to be a bastard at the head of Winterfell because it wasn't done. The Stark family had such honor, and that, he was a bastard. He knew he was a bastard. He knew he wasn't a Stark by law, and even if they made him a Stark by law, that he would still be a bastard.
Yeah, he kind of felt like it was cheating somehow.
Yeah.
Well, and part of it is, I think, also because his father didn't request it, and that's what he really wanted. It's not so much to have a king legitimize you, it's to have your father request it, because that means that you are his son.
It is just absolutely so painful to watch play across his face. I think this is my favorite season with John. He's just like totally, I think he's just amazing this season. His character, and I think the portrayals, I really think it's just what they're letting him do. I mean, I saw him in one other thing, Kit Harington, and I just felt like he was limited by the direction as well. But it's curious to see now that he's got more than just, I'm a bastard and I miss my family and my dad doesn't love me, and now he's got a lot more to deal with, and it's just absolutely mesmerizing the way those scenes played out, I thought.
My only nitpick, and it's only a nitpick, but about this sequence is really just that I wish they had seeded a little bit earlier that this whole Lord Commander election was going to happen, because it kind of felt like it came out of nowhere here. They hadn't really been worrying about it for a long time. And Thorne was just acting commander, but just nobody ever said, well, yeah, but there's going to be an election coming up.
Right, it did kind of pop up.
Yeah, so I think I just wish that there had been just a line here, a line there at some point, even just last week, to kind of say that this was coming.
Right.
Because, again, it's like it wasn't out of nowhere. It was planned. We just didn't talk about it.
Yeah. And in the books, they were having a tie, a three-way tie, and they couldn't get a consensus. And so, and two of the people involved were they hated each other so much that neither of them could withdraw from the race in order to get it to move on. And it gets to a point where Stannis says, your Lord Commander will be chosen tonight. That's it. If you don't choose, I will.
Yeah.
Or something to that effect. I'm not sure if it says I will.
But I gotta say, I'm glad they cut out all the political crap.
Yeah. It went on so long.
Yeah.
So it works better this way.
And the whole thing too is that like half of the way they sell it is that like with this omen with Mormont's crow that talks and it can say snow, and so like Sam rigs up this whole thing where like they break open the pot to get the tiles and a crow crow lands and goes snow, 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 and it's just like totally contrived and it just feels like what? So I like. Because the thing is, as it plays out in the scene, I just feel like, first of all, we get the idea that Sam has maybe had some wishful thinking ideas of something of this nature for a while, and maybe that's why he was down there researching it anyway. Although maybe he would just be researching it because he knew the election was coming up generally, and he wanted to be informed. But then this idea of hearing from John, you just got offered like everything you ever wanted, and you're turning it down because of your vow.
Right.
Dude.
Yep.
And then when he's, saying, okay, well, who's our other candidates? Well, we got Thorne, and who's like he's got some good points, but he's kind of a jerk. We don't like him.
Yeah.
Then there's Dennis Mallister, which I guessed Chooch is maybe the character you felt like you didn't remember who he was.
You
what?
Because I don't think.
They did give his resume, but I don't remember.
I'm not sure he was ever actually shown on the show before.
Yeah.
Or not. I don't remember.
He's from another tower.
Yeah, he's one of the other castles. But in any case, certainly it's like, who's this guy? We don't, and he's old. He's like, is he any good? I don't know. And so I think Sam is just thinking, you know what? John is better than either of these guys, and I'm going to tell people so. Yeah. And the thing is like, you hear his speech, and it's like you gotta imagine there's people in the room going,
damn.
There's some good points there. I wouldn't have necessarily thought about it because he's so young, but
in the books, the thing with the crow, I actually really enjoyed. I liked it. I thought it was neat, especially because the reason why there's like a bit of a tie or something is Jon Snow doesn't vote because he leaves. And so all this happens without him being there, and or he leaves it for part of it. I don't remember exactly, but it's kind of neat and it's monumentous, and you can see how people are swept up in the moment, and he's able to win, and then later they're having second thoughts like, did I really want to vote that way? But in this way, there's convincing arguments that are made. People are invested. I think it's definitely more earned. It's got more momentum behind it. But because we've got this tie, we can see already that more than half of those voting did not want him.
Yeah.
And so he's already got a struggle on his hands, which I think is more interesting and a better dynamic than people going, I can't believe I voted this way because of a stupid crow.
I'm just glad that they left all that political stuff out, because it did kind of, I thought, like you said, it just went on and on until Stannis had to intercede, because it was like, it was too much like DC.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's just the thing of like my biggest note from that whole scene was that just basically all of Westeros owes Samwell a hand job because of his research, his presentation of facts, everything he did to alter the votes, not just with the brothers that were in the room, but even to Jon himself, because even Jon was like, maybe I could do this.
Yeah, because he was honest. Like, don't get up, don't stand up. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, but I mean, I think he sold Jon on the idea that he was already doing the job, and he was honest, and he was direct, and he was funny, and like Nutty said, it was when he mattered, and Janice got his due. Slint got totally called out. I think that may have been my favorite part.
I love that.
When Sam pointed out that he was hiding in the food larder with a female and a baby during the battle.
If I can point out, by the way, handies do not break the vows of the Night's Watch.
See? It's a way to honor.
Well, like as Sam pointed out last season, technically their vows don't actually really even say they can't have sex.
See, that's
they're just not supposed to father children.
Well, let's be honest. That's why he spends so much time in the library, is looking for those loopholes.
And I love that Maester Mormont, not Mormont, sorry.
Master Aemon.
Yeah.
Maester Aemon is the deciding vote. I thought that was so cute. And he does it with his little giggle. I love the actor playing him.
Yeah.
I'm so happy they got him, even if he can't wear violet contacts. I'm so happy that he's there because he's just perfect.
That was, that was awesome. He didn't have to say a thing. Yep, they're even. Blink, done.
Which is the holy shit number 3 for me was Lord Commander Snow, and I immediately thought, and I was looking at the chips, so he's got about 42% of the vote against him. Now, if Thorne had won, it would have been a landslide. The other guy probably would have gotten the same amount of votes.
Yeah, like if Malister had dropped out and let Thorne just run unopposed, and if it was just Thorne or Jon Snow.
No, I'm saying without Jon.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well,
Malister would have lost anyways, and it would have been a landslide.
Malister was the third party that split the vote.
All of those people are now really against Jon, and so I think that Jon just has much bigger morale problems than Thorne would have had. There's definitely morale problems, but what did I
suddenly made me think of that old Simpsons episode of "Don't blame me, I voted for Kodos."
Jesus Christ! Do not get me started on politics, ladies.
Wow.
Politics, jeez.
How about
it's just the whole 3-party system.
Shoot, I was going to say, well, how about the discussion of the death penalty? But that we actually have Arya's scene before we go back over to.
Yes. We jump back to Bravos in the streets when Arya's about to throw down.
Now, I have a serious question for you guys. Why do you think that encounter leads who we discover to be Jaqen? Why is that what convinces him to show himself and bring her back?
What do you say, Chooch?
I think it was essentially, the waiting around wasn't any good because she has every other place to be. So now she's actually going about making her way, and this comes along, and she gave them the choice, basically.
Yeah.
And it's the thing. The holy shit number 4 for me is it's him. And I was trying to look. I don't remember when I had said it. I referenced it in early season 4. That, as you know, I think she's going to go do this. I was going to try to find the audio thing to drop, but and how I feel bad that I want her to be trained by him because it's this life of death and all that, but that's really the life she's going to lead anyway. So
she's kind of already on that path.
Yeah.
Right, and the thing that I like about it is it seems really balanced. It's not death willy-nilly.
Yeah.
It's not anarchy or anything like that.
She was foraging for food. She got challenged. She was defending herself, and she gave them a choice.
Yeah, to me it's so he was watching her, and she gave somebody the balance, the choice of, you don't want to do this. And
what was that line? Dead men don't want anything, or dead men don't need things?
Like that, yeah.
Yeah.
That was the line, I think.
Nothing's worth anything to dead men.
That was it. And it reminded me of the whole God of Death thing.
Yeah.
And I think that was the turning point.
It definitely showed a lot of maturity of what she had experienced since the last time she'd seen him.
Yeah.
I like that it's Jaqen in the show.
It makes it easier for me.
Yeah, it's going to make us care about these people. There's lots of different characters that she's supposed to interact with, and this will be a lot easier to deal with. And although it does squash my whole, is Serial Pharrell also Jaqen?
That was one of PG's, yeah.
Honestly, I don't know that that's incompatible with anything we've seen.
It's completely not incompatible, yeah. It's still there.
But I kind of had mixed feelings seeing it. like, on the one hand, it's kind of cool having it be Jaqen, and I also see how that really simplifies the storytelling in the show, because, again, it minimizes the number of brand new characters we have to introduce, and it's clear that the House of Black and White is associated with him anyway, so it's not like there's no connection already established. So I guess I see the benefit of it, but I don't know, somehow I didn't find myself thrilled when it happened. I think maybe I just have to think about it some more, see how it plays out.
For me, it's kind of along the lines. I'm sorry, Chooch, were you about to say something?
And just as pure viewing experience, not having the books to go on, this is exactly what I wanted. I'm very, very, very happy.
I think as someone that read what Arya went through before and what, this entering the doorway was in the books, I'm freaking thrilled that it's Jaqen, because I was worried about whether or not I was going to be able to watch all of this season because of an element that they've postponed, and because of not wanting to see Arya go through this with these people that I didn't recognize. But now that I see that Jaqen is there, I'm like, oh, whew, okay, well, at least I think she'll be okay. She thinks she'll be okay. And so just to be able to see her have a little hope again, which we hadn't really seen on her face. I mean, we've seen it, but like to see it kind of pay off for her, at least she thinks it's paid off for her for the first time in a really long time, is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
I like how the teenagers run as soon as they see the faceless man.
Right.
They're just like, oh my God, I gotta go. Like, everybody in Bravos knows what's up. In the books, it's not the ship captain that rows her there, it's his son, but they also talk about how, like, throughout the entire trip, everybody's giving her little gifts, and they're basically sucking up to her, and that's how much power this House of Black and White has. Like, everyone respects it, everyone knows what's going on, so when they see the faceless man and they go running, it's kind of neat. I'm like, okay, so they told us how important it was in one scene.
Yeah.
Instead of like 5.
Well, and I think that the first view you get of it when you're on the little boat, you've got the city and it's like Venice and it's little vendors and little boats and it's very communal, and then separated from everything else is this huge, almost not sterile, but it's just one of the most featureless, I guess.
It's just this huge block with no windows or anything.
And there's a black door and a white door, and so it's like, what the, that she's going into. And so I think the only way that a lot of viewers would be able to handle her going into that kind of a thing, entering those doors, not knowing what's on the inside, is having a face that we knew and that we trusted whether we should or not. And at this point we do, because who else? What else am I going to do? Where's Arya going to go? I mean, what? Is there...
I also love how
is there anybody left? Do what, honey?
Her list, yeah.
Her list is
4. She's down to 4.
Yeah. Well, she took some people off of it that aren't dead, though. Like she put Melisandre on the list when she took Gendry.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you're right.
I just realized it was down to 4. I forgot who she left off.
I hadn't remembered that because they didn't meet in the book. So
yeah, because Tyrion and Joffrey are dead. The Hound is dead. Yeah, I didn't even catch that one.
So far,
I actually got hung up on Meryn Trant because I was like, didn't he die at Blackwater?
Yeah.
But no, and then they showed him in a scene later in the episode, so I was like, derp.
It does occur to me, I don't think that's new, because I think when she talked about the list with the Hound last season, I don't think she mentioned Melisandre there either.
Okay.
So I think it might have been a while since then.
Interesting catch, Miss Ellis. I'm very
well, to be fair, I did read someone else observing it, so I didn't notice it myself.
I'm still giving you credit for reading it and sharing it.
Fair enough.
I found Jaqen's transformation interesting, and in his original transformation, I remember calling to it, and I don't know if it's purely a financial decision or if they're doing it this way. That in the when he originally went away, left her, it was just a simple cut. They didn't show transformation, so you don't know if it's a disguise, a mask, and it seemed like he was further away and up a hill, so it almost seemed like a magical thing. And here again, it's a clear, blatant cut
Yeah.
And so you don't know if it's a mask or did she see like morphine or.
This seemed more like a mask. I think you're right. They did a really excellent job on editing, so you weren't quite sure. But I'm such a dork that when the episode where Jaqen changed faces, um, seasons ago or whenever it was, I actually took pictures of the screen of what he looked like right before and then right after. And because I thought maybe he's going to show up again as that guy, and I'll catch it. But no, he went right back, and it was because he was turning back and facing her, and then he turned back, and then when he turned back again, his face was changed. So we didn't see anything other than he turns back, and there was a hair streak change or something too. It was very mysterious.
I think the camera went behind her.
This time, yeah.
Yeah.
But the previous one that you were talking about, when he was a little further away and he turned back and he looked one way and then faced forward and then did his change that we didn't see, turned back, and that's when we saw the third face what we think may be the third face of Syrio Farrell, but definitely the second face of Jaqen. And we've now seen a third face confirmed for him.
And I like how Arya knows what's up. Arya knows about the transformation because she watched it.
Yeah.
But we don't. So that shows that he's bringing her into the sanctum. She's getting the knowledge. We're not getting the knowledge. And I also think that even if they had decided it's going to be a transition kind of a thing, like, I think this is so much better than using some form of special effects.
Yeah.
I think that this is more of a wow moment visually, I think.
Yeah,
and
I like the mystery.
Yeah, you're right. I hadn't thought of it that way, but I like that she gets to know something that we don't for a change.
Yeah, because in the books we're in her head.
The thing that I don't know, the way I kind of explain it in my head, though, is I like to imagine that whatever magic or techniques or combination of the two, more likely, is involved in the way the face gets changed. I like to think that the way it works to the viewer is that somehow, like, you can never see it happening. It's like somehow you'll be watching, and then you'll like blink and it's gone already, or it's and like you won't be able to watch it changing. It's just somehow there's like it's just like like you can't perceive the change. It's just you notice when it's done already somehow. That's the way I've always kind of thought about it.
Somebody's got some noise going on there.
Sorry.
Oh,
I
sorry.
just poured some more soda. I unmuted too early for a change.
We should get some sponsoring. Would you like to do some product placement? No, I'm kidding. Just kidding.
But the one last thing to maybe talk about is just how he kind of finishes it, because she's not letting him get away with, like, I asked for Jaqen H'ghar. You said, but then he said, it's like a man, man becomes no one, or something like that, which is what a girl must become.
Yeah.
And
yeah, she must become.
What does that mean? Yeah.
It's scary until you kind of think of, because I was like, that was one of the things about the book that kind of made me go, hasn't she been through enough? She has to become no one or nothing now. Jesus. She's been a rat. She's been a steward. She's been bait. She's been, just everything. And I don't know. It made me sad until I realized that she had played all these roles, that she's kind of been practicing and honing skills and learning how to put on different faces and personas all this whole time, just in surviving. And he probably recognized that as well. Or I'm talking out of my ass.
Sheriff Bullock says, this is a bit random, but the House of Black and White reminds me of Detroit's abandoned Michigan Central Station, which is this huge monolith of a building often photographed for those urban decay books.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
It's very depressing. Thank you, Sheriff. No, I'm kidding.
Well, let's do our last couple scenes back in Marine. So the moment of truth comes, and the scales of justice are a bitch.
Yeah, I was so pissed on Danny's behalf twofold. One, when she's confronting him for having killed the guy, I was just in Danny's shoes going, like, dude, you just fucking forced my hand here.
Yeah.
Because I can't let you just get away with this now, because then I look weak and it looks like I don't have real justice. It's only justice for people that I don't like already, but if you're my buddy, then I let you get away with shit.
Right. Totally.
And then he's like doing this whole thing of like, oh, I know your hands were tied, so I did it for you. And she's like, oh, so the message you want to communicate to everybody else is that I can't get anything done and I have to rely on people doing things directly against my will.
Right.
Like, so, like, I was so, like, pissed on her behalf of just like, dude, you just ruined everything. This is all your fault.
Yeah.
And it makes her look weak because she can't even protect her own prisoners.
Yeah.
Like, what kind of a message is that?
Yep.
Chooch, what did you think? Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, we can.
Christiana.
Finish.
And then they go to do the whole execution thing, and then the slaves are just fickle bitches. And I'm just wanting to be like, it's like, I freed you from slavery, and you're mad because I killed a murderer just because he was your buddy? Fuck you guys. That's
exactly.
what I wanted her to do. Big double deuce to the whole crowd.
Yeah, I was on the edge of my seat, looking around and like, Barrison's like, I don't know, and I'll be like, yeah, do it, and then like, which way's it gonna go?
Yeah.
And I think she made the right choice. I think it's the only choice she could have made.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm reminded of a scene from A Bronx Tale.
Ooh, tell me, I love that movie.
The Colangelo asks, and I think he asked this a couple of times, and he says, is it better to be feared or loved? And Sonny explains that love is fine, but it's fickle.
Yeah.
Fear will keep a man loyal.
Yeah.
Father, of course, goes with love, and that, fear means that they're never really your friends. But it does remind you of the whole idea that they love her. She's their savior. But if suddenly somebody, as we've all experienced, especially with celebrities, we're like, oh my gosh, everything this person says is so cool, and then they say something that goes against what you think, and you're like, whoa, okay, maybe I don't like them so much anymore.
Yeah. Well, what I read, because they're all yelling Misa, which means mother.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, the guy that murdered the prisoner, and then, all of the freed slaves, and literally everyone except for the masters and the Unsullied screaming, Mommy, 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 don't do it, Mommy, Mommy. And it's like, between the dragons and between all the people that she's rescued, it's like everybody has gotten into their terrible twos stage, and everybody's just throwing poop against the walls and just like making a big mess, and so that there's absolutely nothing that she can do right, because it's a lose-lose. She's either going to enforce what's right and just have to deal with, obviously it's already happening, a tantrum that's going to end in a lot of death, or she's just going to have to keep yelling and putting her foot down, and it's just, or she gives in and it makes the behavior worse, like you guys are saying, makes her look weak all around. And it's just every single person that she has taken care of or rescued or helped or birthed, like the dragons, it's just like they want vengeance, and she just wants a peaceful rule and an end to like the assassinations by the harpies, and just, it's just ridiculous. It's, in spite of like her dress and demeanor, she still finds herself kind of like as a child, almost stuck between, Viserys and Master Illyria or Drogo or somebody again. It's like, for all that she's done, she's still back in that place where she's scrambling to try and regain control.
And one thing is, the crowd, when they see him, they start chanting brother.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that I think is really interesting, because they don't see this as they don't see her as their ruler. They see her as their mother.
Yeah.
She's their mother, not the master's mother, but their mother's.
Yeah.
And that she's their savior, and he is one of their brothers. And so to them,
it's unfair.
She's killing one of the family. And
for a master.
Yeah. And I can't help but think that maybe her plan of public execution might have been, a bit far. Plus,
They
the
covered.
master was going to get a trial, and
Yeah.
this guy didn't get a trial.
No,
I
I think that, and also I think the implication was that bit where he's pleading his case in front of her, that's the trial. This is not the United States where they have a jury of peers and stuff like that.
He was caught, confessed.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
But yeah, no, you're right. You've convinced me.
I think they're being pissed just she didn't show mercy, and she could have.
Yeah, they asked for mercy. She didn't show mercy. They felt she was on their side, and she's not what they thought she was. She thought she was going to rule the city, and they thought she was going to give the city to them.
Again,
they would
terrible twos.
Yeah, and that is a problem when people become sycophantic. They can become fickle when people take a person and elevate them to almost godhood, or in their case, their mother. But she's definitely got this godlike persona to them that can be very dangerous. I mean, as we're starting to wonder about the idea of the evangelical sparrows. These people were kind of evangelical Danny, and suddenly, wait a minute, we're not your chosen people? I thought we were.
Yeah. So thanks a lot, Mosaddegh. You screwed up everything.
Absolutely everything.
Literally everything. Had a different punishment for him. How that might have played out, but I don't know what the right thing would have been. I don't know. It just
I think Chooch is right. I think that was the only thing she could do, especially if she wants to prove that she can rule there and then cross the sea and take over Westeros again. Sucks.
Yeah. See, I have to say, I feel like I have always been on the side of thinking that it's the right thing for Dany to do to try and hang out there in Meereen for a while. I call it her starter kingdom.
Right.
But at the same time, I have to say the emotional reaction I had at the end when they're hissing her and everything. Again, it's like I wanted her to say, "Oh, well, how about you guys just free yourselves from slavery next time? I'm out. Screw you guys. I'm out of here." Yeah.
Screw you guys. I'm going home.
Yeah. So
I can't wait to see what she does next week. It'll be really interesting to see fallout from this because it's shit got real after they,
Well,
that all got real.
Because of course there's one last scene after all of that, right?
Right. Yeah. We've got another one.
And I have some real thoughts about that, but you guys can go first if you want.
My thought was just what your thoughts were because of your previous discussion about what the dragons are up to and what Drogon's up to. So I was very excited to see him, and he's coming back, and so the first thing that I was thinking is, her path isn't okay. I don't think he'd come back just because she made a great decision,
Yeah.
So kind of connecting with her and then taking off was like a, Mom, come on.
Oh, okay.
That's going into what Christiana was saying before, and I don't know if you had heard that at all.
Well, that was my first note. Was I wanted your interpretation of that? Was how did you read that scene? Because I wasn't really clear on how I read that scene quite yet. Because
I think it's ambiguous on purpose.
Yeah, for me it was like there's joy and oh my God he's still alive, and then holy shit he just flew away. What's he gonna do now? He's alive, but he's gonna go kill more people, and I've already got shit going on here. And I think it's joy that he's not tied up in the basement, but also, oh crap, he's not tied up in the basement like the other two, because he was the real wild card of the three, I think, which is why he was free and the others weren't.
Well, I think he was the one that actually killed the kid that was.
Inspired
the whole thing. He was the one.
Absolutely,
They're being punished for his actions.
Totally, that's why they're crazy.
I think he's testing her. I think he's waiting for something. I think she has to be really careful, and that he's waiting to decide something. And it's nice that he does not lash out at her like the others did.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he's not in prison.
Well, and he's the one that scared her the first time.
Yeah.
And last season.
I wonder, or I personally believe, that he knows where his brothers are.
Well, they would. I mean, wouldn't they would have to almost, wouldn't they? I mean, I guess I kind of thought of them as dogs and being able to hear each other, and those are some loud fucking dragons, and those are some cavernous halls.
Well, I mean, regardless, I mean, they're not out in the sky with him. And he's been staying away on purpose. Like, he knows more. Sorry, something just fell.
As long as we don't go into anything spoiler, because I don't know what's happening next.
Don't worry. I haven't spoiled anything.
No, that was my like, please no. Remember us?
Yeah, so certainly kind of like Chooch said, just in continuing like that, my sort of working theory. It's again not spoilery, but it's just sort of it's the grand scale theory of like what the dragons represent and why they act the way they do, and having it be somewhat representative of she increasingly loses control of them to the extent that she's not doing what she is, quote, supposed to be doing, according to whatever power decides these things, right? And actually, one of the things that occurred to me almost for the first time at the end of this episode was this idea that if we imagine that there is some intent, whether it's, want to call it a god or what, or some force that is deciding what her destiny is and is having the dragons either behave or not accordingly, who's to say that that force is necessarily good? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But one of the other things, that's more just sort of speculation rather than something that's been shown. But what it really came down to also, I was thinking this time, was I think one of my favorite descriptions from the book that I don't think they ever said this way in the show, but it's the idea that magic is a sword without a hilt, that there's no way to wield it safely. It's sharp and it can do damage, but it's going to do damage to you too, because there's nothing to hold it with that doesn't cut up your own hands. And so the dragons, that's what they are. And I think, again, in terms of the dragons sort of representing what she's doing, this idea that she made what she believes to be the right decision, even though there's fallout, is this idea of, look, if you want to accomplish something, it's never going to look pretty. If you feel like this is the right way to go and this is the thing you believe is the right thing to do, and you do it even though there's fallout and people get pissed, that's kind of what the dragons are all about, is that, it's like, look, and again, it's like the response of locking up the dragons because they killed a kid. It's one of those things just like, we can certainly say it seems awful that a kid was killed, but we also have to say, what is the broader context of what it means for her and her power and how she is seen in the world at large?
Yeah.
That she's locking up her dragons. So it's like, at the same time that we don't want little kids getting eaten, which is awful, there's probably bigger stakes in play that are potentially negatively impacted by her locking her dragons away.
Well, even if you go beyond the devastation to the local, populace, then it's tremendously huge, the impact of, and I don't know, it just, that's all I got to think about all that stuff. I again, put thought into it.
None of this is concrete. It's not like there's an answer. It's more just, I think, thematically, the thing is, it's just emblematic of, it was foolish and naive to ever think that you could do something as big as ending slavery and conquering cities without people having to get freaking killed along the way.
Yeah, at age 15 or 14 or whatever.
These things are too big to be done bloodlessly. It's just not possible, and it's foolish to think otherwise.
Yeah.
And so that doesn't mean you can't be sad when it happens, but you also need to not be surprised. And I think that's kind of maybe some of what's going on, which is like her whole thing here is that she made the decision that she felt like she had to, even though she knew people were going to be mad. And yet she was kind of, I think, taken aback by how mad they were.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that doesn't make it the wrong decision. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I mean, just her being known as the mother, the Misa, referring to each other as brother and that sort of thing. I mean, what's the running, I guess, I don't know if it's a trope or what, cliche of everybody's mother damaged them so much they need therapy? I mean, did she think she wasn't going to get any shit splashed on her? She's a mom. I mean, it's all you're supposed to be the one that encourages and inspires, and also the one to give boundaries, and the one to give discipline, and the one to teach, and half the time you spend just like her learning from them how you're going to react the next time. And I think we've seen a lot of characters, Sansa and Arya and Jon and Brienne and God, almost pretty much all the characters that I love have been absolutely stripped down and have had to challenge and face what they really believed, like what Jon had to do.
Yeah.
It's fascinating shit.
Well, and just put the whole motherhood angle on it. If the former slaves, that whole faction is really angry now. But if we want to think of it as, like, say, feuding siblings, what has happened is that, you gotta, the older kid has the toy, and then it's the younger kid's turn.
Yeah.
But then when it's the younger kid's turn to give it back to the older kid, they don't want to. And they don't want to give up their turn and actually take fair turns, and so they start crying. And it doesn't mean it's not the right thing to do to make them do it, even though they get mad.
Yeah.
And I think in the broader context, if this city is never going to be at peace unless these two factions can coexist.
Right.
And they're never going to learn how to do that if she caters to every time they get mad.
Yeah. It was a really interesting episode on I think every character's little stretch of story.
And if I can say, Drogon looked awesome.
He did.
Aww, he looks nice and healthy.
I'm so happy with how they've done the dragons so far. I mean, every time they're on screen, I'm like, you know what? That looks really good. And that was one of the things that I had already put in my head before the ever greenlit Game of Thrones on HBO, that if I ever saw this on screen, I would have to be able to just deal with the fact that the dragons weren't going to look good. And it's so nice to have that,
payoff, right?
Being wrong. I like being wrong about that. So.
Well, such great subtle animation too, because we talked about it being ambiguous, but just that idea when she's reaching out, it's like you're watching Drogon and you sort of feel like you don't know second to second what's he going to do, what is he about to do? Is he going to suddenly turn mean? Is he going to let her pet him? What's going to happen? And then it's just they played that really well, where we just had this uncertainty.
Of what he's going to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I wasn't even processing it on the level that you were speculating, where he's thinking of all these other undercurrents about my siblings and what have you done and how that's all going to pay off. But yeah, it just, boy, that that must have been...
Well, all of those thoughts really only come afterwards anyway.
Yeah.
In the moment I'm there, it's like, oh, is he going to let her go?
I just need to see those other dragons and make sure they're okay in the dark with no therapist and no Xanax or anything like that, because they're going through some trauma right now. They're alone in the dark with their baby mama.
I think that wraps up that episode.
Yeah.
Does anybody have a rating for it? First. I said, who wants to go first?
I'll go first with 8 out of 10 circular tokens.
The nopes.
Well, no,
the
votes for Jon.
There were a couple though this episode, because we had the coin and we had that too. That was a good one, Christiana. Hi, Luna.
Team Snow tokens.
All right.
Team Snow tokens.
How about you, Nutty?
I am also going to give it 80%. Dragons definitely boosted up there. There were some highs, there were some lows, but I'm pretty happy. And I'm also really happy about, certain castings and portrayals. So 8 out of 10. What the heck was my rating? Oh, Park Strogans. That was it, of course. Durr.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with an uninventive 10 out of 10 stars.
Ooh.
All right.
But I'm giving it 10 out of 10 because it delivered more than I hoped that it would, and it's leaving me with more to think about. So,
Well, good.
Chooch.
I went 10 as well. This blew me up.
Wow.
There were twists, like I said. There were 4 holy shit moments for me, and things that I liked, and things that are bad portents. But it did hit on everything for me. So I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10 puddles of slints making.
Oh, nice.
Slint puddles. Oh, that sounds really bad.
I like that one.
Yeah, that's good.
So that gives us a cumulative score of 90%. Do we want to mention the title of next week?
I don't know what
Please
it is.
do.
Please.
It is sorry, not the. There's no the in it. High Sparrow.
Ooh.
Chooch, what do you think's gonna happen?
All right, Sparrow.
They're gonna get baked. No. We're gonna find out that their base religion is Rastafarian.
They got their 420 off from the release schedule. Well, Sparrow.
Happy Earth Day.
Sparrow. I don't know. I'm guessing we're going to see.
I can't think of it without laughing now.
I guess we'll see. Maybe we'll see what Cersei thinks about the new. What's his face?
Septon?
Lancel?
Lancel.
Okay.
Lancel. Gotcha.
It's originally had an R names going in my head. Yeah.
Right on.
Oh.
Okay.
Scary. The contest count. I don't know.
So if it's new characters, I think it's really only our slave guy, right?
Can I just think that
Well, isn't it on screen and named?
I couldn't remember.
No, the survey specifically said named deaths.
Okay, then none of the people Brienne killed had names.
Yeah, and then even the Sons of the Harpy, I can't remember. I couldn't. If they said his name, I didn't catch it.
The dwarf didn't have a name.
So.
Right, and then even Mosador, I feel like I really only knew his name from reading it. I couldn't remember if they said it in the show or not, but otherwise there's none. So.
Yeah,
I think he counts in the sense that we've certainly seen him before. We know who he is, even if we didn't necessarily know his name.
I think counting deaths is depressing. I think we need to think of something more fun, like, I don't know.
Well, I was thinking go back to our old school. So before it would be deaths and boobs, and I think we combo boobs with butts.
No, PG ruled out boobs.
Okay.
You really can't argue that, can you?
I thought if we combine it with the male on-screen thing that we have equal time and it's okay.
My only issue with that is we haven't seen that much nudity anymore.
Oh.
Oh, and that does remind me of
male on male.
A new story that I have seen. Apparently, Emilia Clarke has said that she won't be doing any more nude scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry,
that what we've seen this season is her double. And go look that up because her double is very pretty and very close to what Emilia Clarke looks like, and has been. They've come up with some names, Khaleesi-ish, Yaris or something like that. And a couple other ones, but I think my favorite was Khaleesi-ish. But yeah, so that makes me think that there'll be less nudity on that character at least, and it does feel like we've been getting less nudity.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we got a bum last week, but other than that, I mean, do butts even count? I mean, they did them on NYPD Blue. Does it count?
Like 20 years ago, they don't count. Yeah.
How about
we'll figure it out.
New characters? How about that? Number of new characters.
How many new named characters?
That sounds cool.
Yeah.
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 New to the show named characters.
Yeah.
And we have in the Q&A, Sheriff Bullock says, "This was better than last week, but I had a few disappointments. The Jon Snow election did not feel as dramatic as the book. The water gardens look like regular gardens and not like I imagined them.
Right.
No Dorne on the map! ! 8 out of 10 smiling Jon Snows."
It's funny with the water gardens. They also didn't look like I envisioned them, but then it also occurred to me as I was even thinking that the vague visual impression that I had was literally just like a water park, like water slides and the tide pools and stuff like that. So
and water coming from the ground, spurting from the ground. Like when you're in a water park and there's the kiddie section.
Yeah.
It just spurts out of the ground. I would totally pictured that.
In my mind, it was just like this big open like oasis in the desert, and it was just like stone and water everywhere and really lush and flowing and kids laughing and splashing and Prince Doran standing there,
And flowers.
And just like really lush, like an oasis, yeah. So I'm hoping that we get that scene, Nutty. I think Christiana, you and Nutty and I, we need to have that scene because I think they really... I think that needs to happen for the readers.
It could happen. Incidentally, for the last contest, we only had 3 surveys, which was Chooch and Viv and Nutty.
I only got mine in because I said, Chooch, quick, send it for me, because I was cooking.
I saw the little note to say, remember to do the quiz when it was 20 minutes since the episode. I was like, oh, right.
I saw that.
But
20 minutes before the episode started, and I wasn't going to be watching it that night, but I was like, well, I'm on my phone. I can do it on my phone, and I'm at a restaurant tapping it in.
Uh-huh.
I'm terrible. I know.
Of course, I only bring this to attention because I won.
Oh, wow.
You were both over.
Yes, I was.
I think I voted 5.
Yes.
I would have been way under had we counted non-named people.
And
Viv would have won.
Because in terms of if we count everybody Brienne slashed, it's probably another 4 or 5 people, right?
Yeah.
Right.
I think there was only 2 where it was a really obvious death, though, right?
Yeah.
A couple people maybe got sliced, but not.
Yeah, we don't know.
Yeah.
I thought it was a really good episode. I was happy to see her get her fight on again when she felt like really empowered to do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I love her the most, when she's the most passionate about something.
It did occur to me just to wonder, first of all, it was interesting, I thought, that Littlefinger was so obviously aggressive in that whole, why don't you stay? And my guards are literally going to try to block you from leaving the inn.
Yeah.
It's one thing to say, she's going to cause trouble if we don't take care of her, but it seems surprising that he did it in such a blatant way. You know what I mean? Instead of sneakier, because how many of his how many of his knights died though because he played it that way instead of sending someone after her to, shoot an arrow into her sleeping bag when she's asleep.
Yeah.
I think he underestimated her.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say, is that he's so used to everything that he does. Lysa falls out the moon door. Everything just works out fine. And I think that he has not come across somebody like Brienne in a while.
That's true. There's not a lot of people like Brienne.
There's not, because she's not just there because she's being paid to be there. She's being there because, she can't. There is nothing else that I think is sustaining her at this point other than her need to fulfill any oath at this point. Bless her heart.
Allegedly.
You can't rely on her to act rationally.
Yeah.
No.
And the other thing is, the only experience he has of her is from Renly's camp, and he doesn't believe the shadow thing.
Yeah.
He does not believe this shadow story one bit. So he thinks that she took advantage while she was, taking Renly's armor off and killed him. And even if she didn't,
She should have protected him.
He can lay blame on her.
Yeah.
Like she was in there. She didn't protect him. She's no knight. She's just a woman.
Yeah.
He has no reason to really fear her.
Yeah. He just outsmarted all of King's Landing.
Yeah.
Everybody there. I mean, he walked out of there with the prize.
He got away with murder.
He got away with Sansa. That's the prize. That's the North.
So.
He's a really fascinating character. He gets more and more interesting.
This is true. Can't deny it. I think any closing thoughts? I think that about wraps it up.
Yeah.
Looking forward to next week. I actually watched the trailer this week, but it gave nothing away, which is good.
I can't tell anymore what's next week and what's for the season, so I just am like, oh, look, cute. I wonder when that's going to happen.
Yeah. I think the only real thing we know for sure is that we're going to finally catch back up with, Theon and Roose and Ramsay.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
Indeed. All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining. I'll play our fancy new outro music. And we'll catch you next week.
Yes, thank you, everyone who joined us live. You guys are awesome.
You.
And those listening later.
Yeah, and those listening later, of course.
There's plenty of awesome to go around.
Yes.
If you have feedback for the Beyond the Wall podcast, you can email us at btw@specficmedia.com. You can also leave us a comment on the website. Go to specficmedia.com where you'll find a shiny BTW button. That'll take you right to our page. This podcast is released under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, Share-alike 3.0 Unported license. Feel free to share and remix. Just give us credit and don't charge money for it.